A friend recently sent me a video of Dr. Erickson, the doctor from California, was giving stats about COVID 19 compared to the flu and the mortality rate, and trying to justify a shutdown or quarantine not taking place because the numbers didn't reflect the need for it. Well, in the first 30 seconds of the video or minute of the video, they give these stats. And the stats are, they said that in New York State, the mortality rate is 0.13% or whatever, 0.013%, whatever the hell he said it was. And they based that number on the 9 million people in New York and put it against the number of COVID 19 deaths. And then they go on for California and they give the total population of California. And even if not, they said 4.7 million people in California later on in the video, but 4.7 million people in California. And then they take the death rate, or the deaths of the COVID-19, and they say, oh, well, the death rate and the mortality rate in California is 0.03%. So they give the total population of the state. They give a skewed number in California. And then they go, and then with the flu, trying to compare COVID with the flu, 45 million people were infected. And only so and so many died, giving a mortality rate of 0.03% also. Trying to compare the two. Okay, here's where their numbers get screwed up. When they gave the mortality rate in New York, and they said 9 million people, compared to the how many COVID-19 deaths there were, mortality rate was 0.13%. When they gave the flu example, they didn't give the total population of the United States. They gave the number of people infected by the flu, which was around 45 million, I suppose. So if you're going to make the numbers and you're going to try to compare apples to apples, and you're going to try to compare the flu to COVID, then you need to give the total number of infected in New York, not the total population of the state, not the total population of California or LA or whatever hell number they used. You have to give the number of people infected by COVID-19, just like they gave the number infected by flu, and then you count how many deaths there were and figure out the mortality rate from there. So in New York State, at the time they made this video, or at the time that I saw the video, if you took the total number of cases of COVID-19 in New York and you figured out the mortality rate by how many people died, it was closer to 7.6% mortality rate. Now you have to understand the danger of this video. If they're saying the mortality rate is 0.13%, but the actual number is 7.6%, 7.6%, I mean, I say it doesn't sound like a lot, but that's still a lot. But the difference in those two numbers, the difference between 0.13% and 7.6%, if enough people get infected, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people. Now, if you're taking the California numbers they gave, if you look at California, the number of people infected, and then you look how many people died from COVID-19, the mortality rate in California is around 4%. Now, again, less than New York. It doesn't sound like a huge number, but when you take their example of 0.03% based on the number of people that they said could get COVID-19, not the people that had it, that could get it, yeah, it's going to be low, 0.03%. But if you take the number of people infected, just like they did the flu, it's around 4% mortality rate in California. There's a huge difference, an exponential difference between 0.03% and 4%. There is a huge, monumental difference between 0.13% in New York and 7.6%. So the reason why their video got taken down isn't because it was giving some awesome information that was unknown. It's because they were skewing their numbers to fit their narrative. You guys have to pay attention to these videos. You have to do your research. You have to make sure that you're doing some checks and balances on these things, because people are going to post their opinion and they're going to base it on numbers that fit the message they're trying to get across. Now, I'm not saying that they're right or wrong. I'm just saying that their information was, not given honestly. Anyway, that's my take on Dr. Erickson. if you watch the rest of the video, it goes on to say some more things. Some things are true, some things are not. But the point is, like, you have to disseminate what is true and what is not by doing your own research, doing your own math. Like I said, now, just to recap, the information they were giving when they were giving their stats in the first minute of the video, they were saying that 45 million people were infected with the flu, so and so many died, giving a mortality rate of 0.03 or 0.1%, whatever it was, and they were trying to compare that with COVID-19 in states that are majorly affected, like California and New York. But they were trying to pad their numbers, because if you take the total population and then divide that by how many flu deaths there were, it's minuscule, 0.00 something percent. But if you take the total population, or if you take the number of people infected by the flu and divide that by the deaths, then it's a little bit higher. You have to do the same math for the same examples. You just can't do that. I can't even give an example of where that would even make sense, or where somebody would try to do that. But again, I think that everybody needs to do their own research, do their own math, and don't listen to headlines. You know what I mean? Get your information from more than one source. Get your information from foreign sources. BBC is a fairly good non-biased source to get how they're judging what we're doing. Australia is another one. If you look at the India news press, what they're doing is actually working. So, in a population of 1.3 billion people, they only have 30 some odd thousand cases. Now, 30 some odd thousand cases seems a lot, but they have roughly the same landmass as we do, with 4 times as many people, and we have over a million cases of COVID-19. They have 30 some odd thousand, and very few deaths compared to us. So, and that's because they are doing a very strict lockdown. It's actually working. Trump is resting on his laurels that he stopped flights from China early. He stopped it early, and that's what he's going to rest on. What people don't realize is that he didn't do enough. He did a lot at first, and things that got him a bad rap from a lot of people saying, oh, he's racist for closing the flights and everything. But he didn't do enough after that. He's resting on, I shut China down bullshit. And that's what it is bullshit. He should have locked down the country like India. Look at India. Go look at their press. Go look at what India is doing and what they did. They're extending their quarantine, and it's working. Out of the 1.3 billion people, only 30 some odd thousand. Look at their death rate to the million. It's on worldometers.com. Look at their death rate to the million. It's like 0.9%. You know what ours is? Right around 200 per million. And theirs is 0.9. That's almost 1 per million. Ours is 200 per million. And when you look at that factor, if you figure 10 million people get the virus, well, that number's even skewed. No, I guess for number of deaths per million, it's not skewed. Number of cases per million would be skewed. So number of deaths per cases is 0.9 in India per million. Here it's 200 per million. Guys, Trump didn't do enough. We're still not doing enough. And we're about to reopen the country. And this thing has not slowed down. If you look at worldometers.com, the CDC, if you look at WHO, the WHO, World Health Organization, you can look at John Hopkins sites, different medical professionals, and their numbers are all going to be different based on their own opinion of how you present COVID-19, just like Dr. Erickson did. So all their numbers are going to be different, but they paint the same narrative. It's not slowing down. Okay, the curve isn't flattening no matter what they try to tell you. You can look at my Facebook, and I post updates on Facebook, and everything that I've called, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a mathematician by any means. I'm just doing simple math, and people should see that, but they don't. They just read headlines and watch their favorite person on YouTube and whatever, give their ideas, but they don't do the math. It's simple math, guys. It's not like brain teasing. So by me doing math, if you look at my Facebook posts, I have been the only one that I've seen that has been dead nuts on accurate with the spread of the COVID-19 virus, dating back to early April, late March. I predicted that, it took 2 months to get to 1 million cases, and I understand how laws of probability work, and I kind of timed the next million because it does grow at a geometric rate, at an exponential rate. So I claimed that in 2 weeks we'd have another million, 14 days. Well, guess what happened in those 14 days? We had nearly exactly 1 million cases. And then after that 14 days, I posted again. I said, you know what? In 10 days, it'll only take 10 days now to hit another million. Guess what happened 10 days later? We didn't hit 1 million, but we hit 907,000. And I claimed there'd be 60 more thousand deaths. I was wrong about that too. I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong, but I wasn't wrong in a good way. There were actually 72,000 more deaths in those 10 days. Now, after that post, I posted that there would be, it would level out because of different measures we were taking, and that in the next 10 days, there would be another million. Instead of growing, like I said, exponentially, it would take 10 days to hit another million. Now, it's on pace to do that, which is good. That means it's kind of like leveling out a little bit. But when they reopen the country in another 2 weeks or a month, you're going to see another surge. And then it'll take 7 days to hit 1 million. And if we stay open, it'll take 5 days to hit another million. And if we continue to stay open, you'll see 1 million hit in 3 or 4 days. And that's just our country contributing about half of the cases in the world. And we're the most advanced country in the world. We're the greatest country in the world. But we're so goddamn worried about the fucking economy that we're not taking people's health into consideration. We're more worried about money, which is, again, that's what America's known for. We don't care about people, we care about money. So President Trump, during non-pandemic times, is a phenomenal president. He did so much for the economy and country, and unemployment rate was super low, lowest it's ever been, and he did a great job for the minorities and getting them work and getting people off welfare and self-reliant and being proud to be self-reliant. He did a lot for this country. He's a tough president. If somebody gave him shit, he took care of it. So that was fantastic. But then when compassion comes into play, most businessmen who are millionaires and billionaires, they lack compassion. So when you have compassion for the human race as a leader in a pandemic, you wouldn't see millions of cases in the United States. You wouldn't rest on the laurels of you shutting down travel coming in from China. You would continue, and you would swallow your pride, and you would put the country under quarantine. What we did was totally insane. I understand we give the states rights to govern their own policies, but when their policies are killing Americans, the federal government needs to step in. But we didn't do that. Somebody gave a good example. Having one state do one thing and another state do another thing is like assigning a peeing section in a pool. We never shut down travel. We never shut down bus lines, trains, planes, taxis, Uber. We never shut down transportation. And if you don't shut down transportation, it's just continuing the flow of infections. And it will get continually worse until we, as a country, come together, lock down for 3 weeks, complete lockdown, and knock this virus on its ass, like India. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Do your research. Don't believe what I say. But if you don't believe what I say, I don't know, go do the research for yourself. See what you think. Try to debunk my post.